The December 17, 2012 meeting of the Agenda Charter Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Chairwoman Boyce?
Here.
Ms. Cayley? Mr. McCann?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Mr. Wilcox?
Here.
President Adair?
Here.
Is there anybody signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak to the public forum? No, there's nobody in the chambers. Okay. At this time, we'll approve the minutes for the November 26th meeting of the Agenda Charter. You'll have them in front of you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified for any changes by the end of the day. New business, please.
Referral 12-368, restoring accountability to the Monroe County budget. Oh,
What?
there's no second.
Oh, sorry.
She is actually on her way. I was wondering if we could hold
No.
new.
No,
Okay.
because I scheduled a meeting at this time. I gave notice.
Could we read the bill then? Per the rules. I'm sorry, it does say it in the rules.
Yeah.
It's not introduced, so there's no, you can't
It has
speak
to
to
be on
the,
the
you
table.
can't speak to the
You can't read
motion.
the bill
No,
before
you
move?
cannot, sir. Madam, no, the ruling of the chair is going to stand.
Actually, could I appeal the ruling?
You can appeal the ruling, but,
Okay. Let's do that.
okay. We'll have a vote on the ruling of the chair.
I'd actually like to debate the point first.
If this is a stall technique. I
It
don't
is not a
appreciate
stall
it.
technique.
Well, it worked, I guess.
Any new business?
We still have to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Oh,
Do you have a second? Okay.
We'll vote on the ruling of the chair.
Chairwoman Boyce? Yes,
Yes.
sustains the ruling.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Cayley?
We're voting on the ruling of the chair. The ruling of the chair was that you could not read the matter of business before us, the referral, before it was introduced and seconded and introduced. Yeah, it might have been a stalling technique, but.
Okay. Mr. McCann?
yes.
Mr. Rocco? Mr. Wilcox?
No.
Mr. President Adair? 4-2. Ruling stands. Okay. Back to the main motion now.
Back to the main motion.
So you have to have a move in a second.
Would anybody like to move?
Yes, I'd like to move the bill.
Ms. Cayley?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Ms. Andrews, I'll recognize you as the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. What you have before you is probably familiar. We've talked about this idea before. Until 2006, the charter required that the county budget be submitted at a date prior to Election Day. That meant usually in October. In 2006, that rule was changed by this legislature so that the budget submission date is now by November 15th. We feel certainly that in order to increase transparency and accountability, it's more appropriate to have a budget submission deadline before the election day. I think that you could use the budget that just passed this chamber last week as an example. The 2013 budget was submitted after Election Day. It contained in it 2 new taxes, which one could argue certainly were hidden and not disclosed at the point in time the budget was introduced. I think that there was, obviously significant public outcry against the snow tax and against the new chargeback for the funeral burial grant. That had this budget been required to be submitted prior to Election Day, those items may not have been in it. In fact, because they could have influenced the voters' decisions when they went to vote. And therefore, I think that it's prudent and responsible for this body to request that the county budget be submitted prior to Election Day so that voters are fully aware of what's contained in that budget. and don't have to then live with it after elections and after they've expressed their preferences at the polling site. So we've also seen that in the past 30 out of 33 budgets have in fact been produced before Election Day. So clearly it is feasible and something that the county administration and county executive can do to meet that deadline. So I would urge my colleagues to support this. I think it's the right measure for transparency and for accountability for the county legislature and for the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the motion? Mr. Wilcox?
I'm going to be saying a lot new here, but I would like to echo some of the comments made by Legislator Andrews in that I think this proposal is a good proposal, and I hope we consider it. I hope the committee will consider it, because I think one of the things that we have seen over time is that, you know, the more time legislators have to look at this lengthy document and the public, the more time we have to give it its rightful consideration. This budget is probably the most important document that the county produces. So I think, you know, more time to review it is appropriate, and I hope we will consider it, given that the rationale provided, at least in the past, for moving the date back was to take politics out of it. The budget is inherently political. It has not removed politics from it. It's a statement of priorities, and people will always disagree on priorities. So I don't think there's any removing that from the document. It is inherently political. So I think what we're really talking about is moving it after the election, and I think that's doing the residents of this county a disservice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCann?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I supported the original legislation that actually changed the submission date of the budget. I thought it was a good idea then, and I still think it's a good idea today. The reality is that preparing the budget under the circumstances we're dealing with now is much more difficult, I think, than it's been in the past. As state mandates continue to grow, the budget gets to be a more and more difficult endeavor every year. One of the biggest factors in my support of changing the date was the additional time that I felt was necessary, and obviously a majority of this body felt was necessary. We're dealing today with the state tax cap, which makes our task even more difficult. Locally, we've enacted the Taxpayer Protection Act, so we've put more constraints on ourselves. And while I support both of those measures, I think the fact is that it's made the job of preparing the budget more difficult. And I think one last point I would like to make is, without a doubt, the single biggest factor on Monroe County's budget and what goes into our budget preparation is the New York State budget. And while we've been fortunate over the course of the last couple of years where we've actually had budgets that have been on time, in time for the April 1st deadline or pretty reasonably close to that, the reality is there have been a number of years where that deadline not only has been missed, but has been missed by quite a wide mark. And I remember not that long ago, it wasn't that unusual for the state budget to be passed in June, July, or even August. I think there were a couple budgets that were passed in August. And in terms of the preparation and the budget staff having to sift through that and find out what that impact is on our budget locally, again, I think just makes the task more difficult. And again, I was a supporter back in 2006 of changing the date. And like I said, I thought it was a good idea then, and I still think it's a good idea today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to ask a question of the administration. When do you start working on the budget?
Madam Chair, there is no one here from the Finance Office or the Budget Office, so I would hesitate to attempt to answer on their behalf. Certainly would be able to provide answers if so desired by the committee.
This is referral before you is about the budget. There's nobody here to talk to the budget?
Madam Chair, this is not our referral, this is your referral, and we did not bring staff because we were not requested to do so.
Why are you here? Through the chair.
Through the chair, please.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm here to represent the administration and to collect any questions that may exist, but we certainly cannot anticipate every question and have the entire administrative staff here to anticipate every potential question.
Through the chair, but this is a budget-related referral.
As I've stated before, Madam Chair, no one reached out to request the presence of anyone from the Finance Department. This is not the county executive's referral.
Okay. So through the chair, then you're just here out of your good grace.
No, Madam Chair, I'm here to represent the county executive's office and the county executive.
Okay.
This is your referral. I would presume that you would be the ones that would be arguing on its behalf.
Okay. Okay, I'll change the direction a little bit here because I realize I'm getting nowhere. Through the chair, is anyone present from the administration able to give me a rough idea when they start working on the budget? I guess I'm asking a question. It doesn't have to be that specific. How about by June?
Madam Chair, I do not have information on that, and I'm sorry that I cannot speculate on that. I would not want to mislead you or give you false information.
Through the chair, is there anyone in the chambers that might be aware of when the administration, that includes members, colleagues on the other side of the aisle, is anyone aware when the administration might actually start working on the budget?
I guess not.
Okay. In that case, I guess I can't ask a follow-up question. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Anybody else like to speak to the main motion? And then we'll call the vote.
Chairwoman Boyce,
No.
Ms. Cayley? Mr. McCann? No. Mr. Rocco? No. Mr. Wilcox? Yes. President Adair? No. 2 to 4, it fails.
So any other business to come before the agenda charter committee? Seeing none, we'll adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be January 28th, 2013.